Welcome to MD for Fashion. Style data that will shock you. Men's fashion trivia. Style data history altitudinous. Did you know? If you've been born in 1901, chances are you would have worn dresses. Imagine that. You and other boys, age 6 and under, wearing white dresses. Shocking. Well, it's a fact, and proven data do not change no matter how we reply to them. That is one of numerous intriguing, mind-boggling data about style and fashion throughout history. Note I am not pushing in docket in favor of overgrown men wearing dresses or makeup or tons of jewelry. All these style data are for entertainment only. Enjoy. Fact hash 1. Men were the primary druggies of makeup. That is right. Makeup, the stuff most guys outside of show business would be mocked for using, played an important part in of men's cultures in ancient societies. It all dates back to times agone. Ethnical men would wear makeup either for disguise, to catch creatures while stalking, or for battle, to inseminate fear in their adversaries. There was no aspect of beautifying oneself. It was purely functional. Latterly, in around 4000 BC, Egyptian lords and dictators wore heavy eye makeup. King Tutankhamun and the men during his reign used a green shade, since they believed green invoked the sun and sky gods. The Japanese and Chinese men in 3000 BC wore nail polish to signify their advanced social status. The constituents they used included eggs, gelatin, and ghee arabic. You could say they were relatively ingenious, indeed more extreme. The Romans painted the covers of their heads, not just their faces, to conceal unseasonable baldness. They'd also grease paint up their faces to lighten their complexions. It made sense because those men demanded to make sure they looked one step above the average person. Image was everything. Sound familiar? Fact hash 2. Men were dying to look good, literally. We've it so readily now compared to the men 100-200 times agone. They put their lives on the line. Indeed, if they simply wanted to shave or wear a neat collar. Why? People did not know yet how to deal with parent cuts. Infections ultimately led to deaths. That was the case of Henry David's family John Thoreau, who failed from lockjaw after cutting himself in 1841. It was the same fate for Lord Carnarvon, who was notorious for stepping into King Tut's burial chamber in 1923. Can you imagine? Their lives ended suddenly thanks to a practice that men can do safely currently. Also, there was the stiff, divisible collar with 2-3 buttons. It became a massive trend when it was constructed in the 19th century. Men had it on as a fashion accessory for gentlemen's clubs. It was cost-effective since they wouldn't need to change shirts every day. The big problem: this collar was starched too. A stiffness that affected one's rotation. It was worn so tightly around the neck, literally choking those men to death. That is why it was nicknamed the Father Killer. Fact hash 3. Men and flowers go well together. Still, would you touch and respect it? No? What if you knew that Alexander the Great or Julius Caesar would have done that moment? If you went to the Demosthene and saw a rose sticking out of a back country. Those men were real suckers of flowers. Alexander the Great would grow his own roses and have them introduced to the countries he conquered. Who knows how frequently he got his fritters gouged after touching a brand new rose from his auditoriums. Those were the times when flowers were symbols of beauty or life and its fragility. The Romans used them, particularly roses, for religious observances, and people generally allowed that smelling flowers would help you come closer to the gods. Flowers are surely virile, as history shows. So do not be hysterical to incorporate flowery patterns in your shirt, tie, or fun forecourt. Do not look down on the idea of wearing arrangements. That is kind of like affronting the great autocrats of ancient history. Speaking of flowers, are you planning to shoot flowers for that special someone for Valentine's Day? In case you forgot, it's just 1 week down. But why go through the hassle of dropping by original shops, which have all presumably vended out by now? Or what if their stuff is overpriced? Thankfully, there is an easier way to do this. Order online from 1-800 Flowers, and you will not have to worry about a thing. This great company handles everything from packaging to delivery. Try their service and just add the needed word. No stress whatsoever. Fact hash 4. Pink was firstly a man's color. History does not lie. It was not too long agone when pink was considered a mannish color. It was seen as a find of red, which formerly had strong associations with war. Men back in the 18th century not only wore pink, but dressed in pink silk suits, which were exaggerated with flowers. Those men were veritably important and largely reputed. In the early 1900s, youthful men would confidently sport pink dress shirts, the first of which was made by Brooks sisters, as part of their Ivy League wardrobe. So what caused such a dramatic shift in perception? Condemned on companies in the 1960s that introduced gender-specific baby clothes, assigning blue for males and pink for ladies. That forced parents to buy new clothes for their alternate child if it was a boy and their first was a girl. Shortly later, the pink is for girls trend started. Fact #5. Men were the primary wearers of jewelry. Throughout history, men have worn numerous of the same types of jewelry that women wear moment. It was particularly common during the Renaissance period, when wearing jewels gestured wealth and power. Men's jewelry included not just gold, but gems, rubies, plums, and other monuments in their outfit. Lords would trim plums around their necks. They dressed in grandiloquent sense that color was labor ferocious and represented kingliness. Earrings were also relatively fashionable. Henry VIII was one notable jewel wearer. He was depicted in Hans Holbein's notorious portrayal of him wearing a foamy, jewel-filled choker. There were rubies lined up at the front of his mask and several rings on his hands. It's too bad Prince William wouldn't get down with that style now. Fact #6. All men used to wear dresses 100 times ago. Then is a study. Wouldn't dresses be easier than trousers if you always had to pee? If you could not always time your pee breaks like back when you were little? This is why boys from a century ago wore dresses just like girls until they were 6-7 times old. There was also the age when they got their first hairstyle. The dresses were white, since white cotton could be blanched, and came together with diapers for children when they were still small. They were completely gender-neutral, making nature's call much easier for kiddies and their parents. Fact #7. High heels started with men. Did you know that ancient Egyptian showpieces portray patricians and men of authority wearing heeled shoes? The reason was analogous to wearing jewelry to set themselves piecemeal from the lower class, who walked barefoot. Heels were also worn during conventional occasions, but they were most practical for Egyptian bumblers as they frequently demanded to walk over bloody cadavers. When you look at ultra-modern-day heels, it's hard to tell that they were firstly made so men could place their bases on stirrups while riding nags. Back also, they looked relatively different too. Those heels led to advanced heels, which men wore to lip high. Ultimately also those incredibly high platform came along, which came an unexpectedly long continuing trend. It's amazing how times have changed. Some odd and fascinating facts, aren't they? That's how much style has changed throughout history, and it'll continue to do so. I hope you've enjoyed this post. There's a lot of knowledge in this world that's interesting, entertaining, and gives you a better idea of how life was before cars and the internet. Thanks for waiting. Don't forget to subscribe and like.